Hi everyone, welcome to the Locad Industry Interview Series. Arrived now to the third of this series, and we are now sitting down with operators and leaders shaping the e-commerce and retail and supply chain across the Middle East. I am Dario LaTorre, the Regional Director at Locad GCC, and today I'm joined by Danielle Kaye, COO at the UAE's homegrown brand Beach City. Welcome, Danielle.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you.
Fantastic. It's a pleasure to have you today, and let's start immediately to understand a bit more about Beach City, right? Which is a Dubai-based online fashion brand that has grown into a multi-label platform and has been evolving. Can you tell a bit about the journey, about this beautiful reality, and what's your current, biggest challenges?
Yeah, of course. So we were founded approximately 9 years ago by Daisy. So she is an expat that has spent the majority of her life living in Dubai. And she saw there was a real need for an online platform for kind of beachwear and resort wear where you could get same day, 4-hour, next day delivery. And very cleverly started the platform or the brand kind of pre-COVID when e-commerce wasn't as big as it is now in the UAE, particularly in the Middle East. So around this time, getting shipments in from other countries took around 10 days. There wasn't the relief we have now with obviously duties and taxes, charges, etc. being waived. So the brand really, really took off around that time and just continued to excel and really accelerate through big challenges like COVID. Because we were homegrown, we had the ability to still reach our customer here. Fast forward 9 years on, and we're still going really strong here. We do our full production here in Dubai. So we have a team of extremely talented tailors. All of our pieces are actually handmade. All of our samples and everything are completely signed off by either myself or Daisy, even down to our prints. So our prints, you may see on our website, we call them our signature prints because we actually have a very talented graphic designer who we work with, who we completely curate those prints to exactly how we want them to look, the scale that we want, whether it's for clothing or for swimwear. And then we have those printed onto our own fabrics. So everything that we do is very much tailor-made for us and our customer. We're not big wholesalers. We don't go and buy mass-produced stock and just sew our labels into them, which I think is a very common, misconception with a lot of very small homegrown brands. I think we kind of do like a lot of, lazy distribution, but everything is actually very much done from us here in Dubai, which keeps us very much separate.
Exciting. So you said you started 9 years ago, and have you also moved into offline retail at a certain point? Is it somewhere in the plans? Can you tell a bit about how, online, in your vision, merges with offline, or how there is the importance of, different channels in for sales?
Yeah, so we definitely have done the whole clicks to bricks journey. We had a few retail spaces, some in hotels. We were in the Nikhil Mall on the Palm at one point. And whilst it was amazing for awareness, it was brilliant. People could go and touch and see and feel our products, which is very important in the customer journey. We actually found that our customer still wanted that speed and that ease of being able to just order from home or from the office or from her phone or whatever it might be. My background has very much been in retail spaces prior to joining Beach City. And whilst mall environments and retail environments have got huge benefits, as I'm sure you're aware, the overheads, the impact on margin, the costs that are involved with all of that, we just felt that actually we wanted to have one direct touch point with our customer. So we kind of removed all of that and went straight back to just being pure e-commerce. Now, we do sample sales around once a year, which are incredibly successful for us, where we kind of like any old stock, any sample stock, sometimes even stock that we've made and then decided that we're actually not going to distribute. So people are getting one-of-a-kind pieces. So we do still do that once a year touch point with our customer, which we love. We get to very much meet our customer again. But no, we found that the e-commerce only model is very much what's worked for us.
Okay, makes sense. I think that we'll come back also on the speed of delivery, and that I want to go a bit more in detail of that. But first, so you mentioned that this focus on e-com, but is this a single channel D2C? I believe powered by Shopify or other e-commerce engines, or is it also like the product available on different channels, like Namshi, Amazon, or other channels in the region?
Not at the moment. Wholesale is definitely in our future plan. Obviously, recent disruptions in the region have kind of slowed that down a little bit. But yeah, wholesale is definitely within our plan. We think we've got an amazing product that nobody else has got out there. I think some of our shapes and some of our designs are very, very individual. And yeah, we would love to move into wholesale eventually, but we kind of need to look at our supply chain in order to do that. At the moment, we've got the control of the fact that we make everything locally. We've got, a relatively small team here who can do that for us. We can produce as many or as little as we want of an SKU, especially for sampling the style. However, if that comes to fulfilling big wholesale orders, we would probably need to look into more of like a mass production. So whether that would be enlisting a factory locally, looking at some of our suppliers that we've used previously in China. So that's obviously a larger conversation that we probably need to be, looking into for our future plans. However, what's happened in the region recently, particularly with increases in fuel charges for, freights, even, we're seeing war surcharges with some of our forward planners. We do ship internationally. We use Aramex, we use DHL. We're seeing those charges hugely increase. We still get some of our fabrics from China, and also seeing that some of those flights are currently being diverted just due to whoever our freight forwarders may be using. All additional cut charges, all additional costs, which are always, going to be affecting our profitability and our margin. Whereas doing everything locally at the minute means we've got complete control over those costs.
Yeah, I mean that's like exciting, right? To get to know the more I spend time in the region, to see that more and more brands actually choose to manufacture in the UAE. I think it's a great thing, and the more people will choose actually to manufacture in the region, the more the qualified people will be there, the competition will be higher, and the quality of the production also will be there. I think that's definitely a path to see more and more brands there, but definitely it's more the exception as of today, I would say, rather than the norm. I mean, a lot of things are still coming from the subcontinent and from the Far East, whether it's Southeast Asia or China. So definitely choosing to manufacture in the UAE is a very interesting choice, but definitely brings a lot of advantages. And in situations like today, where supply chains are disrupting, having the manufacturing close to you is definitely give you an extra, agility and resilience capabilities that some others may not have, right? Which is beautiful, right? Because one thing is importing fabric, and then I myself actually started a fashion brand back in 2017 when I was living in Guangzhou in China. We were doing a women's cocktail garments for women, and we were doing from design to manufacturing to online sales and everything. And of course, being there in our little quarter, everything was nearby, right? And it was very easy. The fabric market was a walking distance. The factories were also fairly walking distance and everything. So that's something that, of course, makes things easy. But I know that, of course, having to purchase the fabric, sometimes the fabric is also out of stock, etc., right? But if you have your fabric and it stays with you, right, you can use that fabric when you need it, right? So sometimes you don't need to use the full roll, right? You can, it's like you start to do a small batch of production, you keep it there, and then you can repeat. I don't know if it's the bikini or the full dress or the full swimsuit, etc. Like you have the flexibility that you can do more things with the same fabric, or completely have a different cut, a different design. So definitely having the flex in this time, it's definitely a great advantage. And
our fabrics like locally as well, which is good. So a couple of our really signature fabrics, like one of our most signature fabrics is a chiffon that we use. And actually we source that locally. So we've got a supplier here in Dubai, so that's amazing as well. They always have loads of colours. It's a particular chiffon they always have in stock. I think fast fashion has had a really bad name for it, quite rightly, because obviously normally fast fashion is mass produced. It's not sustainable. It's not very economical. But also fast fashion doesn't have to mean that it's being, mass produced in a non-ethical way, using chemicals bad for the environment. Fast fashion can also be something, which is what we do, which, if a trend all of a sudden comes about that hasn't been predicted, we're always looking ahead of what's going to be coming in the next 6 months. But say a trend comes about that, you've had a very poignant influencer or celebrity wearing something and everyone goes crazy for it, we can be really reactive. So fast fashion can also take on a different meaning, which, if we've got a particular fabric and we can sample a shape that we didn't see coming, do that sample, we can turn it around in 24 hours. And if it works, we can get our team then making that. And essentially we can get that online within a week. So there's a new meaning to fast fashion when you're kind of got that sense of control over everything. Now it's not scalable, which is something that we need to look at for the future if we did want to go into wholesaling. But right now it is reactive, and it means that we can really capture those kind of nuances in trends that weren't maybe forecasted.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually very exciting, and I think you could. I don't know if you have thought about it, but definitely is something that could be, explored. Is the pre-order kind of thing. So you're running some tests around that, right? Where you can just do some like tests, selling some samples, and then see the traction around like that, and just make to order, something like that. Is it something, because I mean, is workable, I believe, right?
Yeah, we have done that before. Now, I personally think that works quite well in the luxury market, because when someone's spending quite a high value for something, or they potentially, it's a wedding guest dress, or it's something for that trip or that event that they're really looking ahead for, I think the pre-order model works very well because they don't mind waiting for something. What we find is our customer, particularly in the UAE, we can get everything now. You can get pharmacy, you can get a doctor to your house, you can get, anything you can get within a couple of hours, same day, next day. And I think that's really a model that works very well for our customers. So when our customers see a trend, they kind of want it now. It's see me, buy me, have me now. We have done pre-order models before. What we do find helps for us is the notify me when it's back in stock button. So we have that available on our website. Now that does work well, because when she wants it, it's out of stock, you increase the need for it, you increase the desire for it, they do the sign up, it comes back in stock, they receive the email and you get the order. So that model works better for us versus the pre-order model. We have done it in the past, and I wouldn't say we wouldn't do it again, but I don't necessarily think it works as well for our customer.
Understood. So then, how would you describe like Beach City's customer? What's the the key profile that you serve?
I think when we started the business, she was probably a very similar age to myself and Daisy, which was, in her 20s, starting to really want to explore fashion, had maybe a little bit more extra cash than she probably previously did when she was younger. Versus now, we very much have seen our customers growing up with us. She's more in her kind of mid to later 30s. She's probably a mum now, married, definitely a career person, got a bit more, disposable income, I guess. Isn't afraid to kind of pay a little bit more for quality, for individual shapes and designs that she hasn't seen before. But I wouldn't say that we're in the luxury sector. I would say we're kind of like mid to entry price, getting into that luxury. So our prices are, kind of sitting in line with Zara in the region. But yeah, I would definitely say that's our customer. She's not afraid to have, a 1,000 dirham kind of average basket spend, but wants to make sure that 1,000 dirham goes a longish way, 3 to 4 items in her basket for that. Versus maybe someone who's more in kind of the luxury market, who may go onto one of the platforms like Unas and want to spend that 1,000 dirhams on only maybe one item. And with the partners that we brought in, we have done multi-brand in the last year, and we played around with different price points and different online partners. Some, like Sunday's a Label, an Australian brand, and Runaway, again, another Australian brand, where their prices sit alongside Beach City. We have big success with them versus some other brands such as Astor Resort or My Beachy Side, where their price points are sitting more at 1,000, 1,200 dirhams. Now, they're also available on other platforms in the region, and we just found that whilst our customer loved the styles, they weren't as happy spending that and only receiving one product. So we've definitely played around and seen where our customer sits in terms of the market right now.
Right. So yes, getting the full outfit for a staycation or a weekend somewhere in the UAE or in the GCC,
Yeah.
and getting it from the swimwear plus some dresses, evening evening wear, cover-ups, etc. Yeah, okay, understood. Very interesting, and yeah, makes sense. And also more on the fashionable, and then having more the capability to like change and always have a bit different style rather than always wear a staple piece. Understand. Let's go back to one of the points that you have mentioned many times, right? Which is speed of delivery. I think that's something that we definitely need to talk about, because for sure we've been educated as customers that we can have things faster and faster, and sometimes we've been spoiled, sometimes we have been demanding, right? But how do you see this playing an important role? I mean, you mentioned it here and there, right? And then how do you ensure that these whoever supports you into as a partner to do these deliveries actually execute it flawlessly and doesn't fail the expectations of your customers?
I mean, customer service and that customer journey is the most important thing to us, because we know that women in particular, we're fickle. So, you disappoint us once, you don't always get a second chance. So we were very particular about handpicking the partner that we work with. And there's lots of fantastic, 3PL or last mile customer options in the UAE. But we wanted to be quite specific in ensuring that whether it's a really busy period like Black Friday, where volume's going to be high in orders, or, lower times, that we were always giving our customer the exact same journey. So we partnered with QuickUp in the region, and we really wanted to be quite particular with them on their deliverables. So we wanted to make sure that we can offer 4-hour delivery. We can also offer same-day delivery. We can offer next-day delivery. And then recently, with what's been happening in the region, we also wanted to speak to them about our international delivery. So one of our international partners, their prices increased massively, and we didn't want to then have to increase our price for our customer, because, it's frustrating. It's frustrating for everyone what's going on in the region. And a lot of our very loyal customers who've been with us a long time have chosen to start their summer vacation early, potentially go back to their country a little bit earlier than they would have normally done, because they may have children and homeschooling's happening. So we also wanted to explore the integration, not only within Shopify, who we use for our website, but also with QuickUp, that we could integrate different last mile partners. So we now have 2 options for international shipping. One is quicker, but the price of that is higher. One takes slightly longer, but we wanted to be able to give our international clients a option B that, do you know what, it might take a couple of days longer, but it was a bit more of an affordable option. And then the same within the region here. We wanted to be able to say, hey, you can get it in 4 hours if you order by this time, you've got next day, whatever it might be. And then we also offer a tracking. So as soon as that order has been picked and packed, they get sent it on email, they've got that tracking, and they can manage it directly with that driver or with that third party, which for us is QuickUp. So we just wanted to make sure that was as seamless as possible. And then in terms of customer service from us, we've got a fantastic team that we work extremely closely with. I see them myself personally every single day. We want to make sure, whether it's a WhatsApp channel or whether they chat to us on Instagram or any of our social channels, if they've got a query with their order, we're there straight away. We see the queries come through. We can speak directly to whether it's QuickUp or, whoever it is, to make sure that they're going to get their order.
Yeah, I think in these times, diversification is actually a key word, right? And it's very important, to have options, right, and be able to, when disruption happen, also move from one partner to the other, right?
Yeah.
And that's one also the value of the key values of Locad itself, right? We do offer 4PL orchestration across 50 plus 3PLs, right? So the concept is we do have active contracts all around the world. We operate in 10 markets from Australia, Southeast Asia, USA, and the Middle East with the UAE and KSA, right? And we have our network of existing partners that are fully integrated in terms of operations and technology. All the visibility and everything comes through, right? Our order management system that our customer have access. It's fully integrated with Shopify already, right? And technically, our customers can jump from Korea A to Korea B to Korea C for that specific SLA, for that specific geography with just one click, as long as, of course, there is some enablement and some restriction into some, international shipping, because, of course, we want to know that our customer understand as well what international shipping means, right? Because sometimes we also have to make sure that that's there, right? But for sure, like we have seen a lot of requests as well in the past weeks about how can we expand options for cross-border shipping. We have multiple solutions, as you said, right, that can range from super fast, but potentially with some surcharges and being affected the most by these increases of prices, right? Both for elevated risks and for the cost of the fuels. But on the other side, we have also across GCC we have road options, so we have air options, so that are also very cost effective, that can still deliver very good performance with good stability across the entire GCC, right? And this is something that, as Locad specifically, we've seen great demand in the past weeks, and we've been really having good conversations around this topic. So yes, flexibility around like multiple providers without yourself as a brand going through multiple negotiations, multiple discussions, and also multiple management complexities, right? Because at the end of the day, if you have like contracts with 10 different suppliers, right, of 3PLs and last mile delivery companies, at the end you have 10 invoices to verify, 10 invoices to pay. You have 10 companies to manage the performance with, right, which can get very complicated. Whereas we are orchestrating all that and making sure that all the performance for all our customers is under control without passing all the complexity. And then we do have contracts active, as I said, with more than 50 companies, and then therefore we take that complexity on our side, and therefore the rest is just one single invoice for our customers. So that's actually one of the things that has been quite active conversation in the past weeks. Instead, as a chief operating officer, right? So operationally, what are your biggest headaches and challenges as of today, given this situation, which hopefully, of course, is going into the right direction, right? But what is your biggest challenge and headache as a chief operating officer today?
I think there's a couple of things. I think one is disruption to timelines. So obviously, the way that we manage our business, particularly, being Dubai focused, is that we then switch our focus when summer comes around to our international customer. The collections that we have, we how that works. But with everything that's going on, our timelines have all been blown out of the water. So not only on deliverables, like, shipments or fabrics we might have had coming from other countries, but also on the timeline of, we now have to switch our focus because, the tourism and the people and everything that we're expecting to see in Dubai, or just the landscape of how the next 6 months is going to look in this region, and then also in the UK and Europe, has changed. But it's also become very unknown. I think if we look back to, say, COVID, the company I worked for at the time, we just fast forwarded our e-com plan. We always wanted to have a multi-channel e-com plan, but it was, a few years in the making. all of a sudden COVID hit and we had this big conversation where we were like, right, well, all this stock that was meant for stores, we know that malls are going to be closed for at least X amount of time. Let's sell it online. We could kind of forecast that plan B. I think right now the trickiness is it's still quite unknown. What region should we be targeting? Do we think all of a sudden there's going to be a peace talk and actually a lot of people who have been put on hold and maybe had salary cuts are going to choose to stay in Dubai for the summer where there's normally a big exodus? Are we going to all of a sudden see like a focus in Dubai for the summer versus where we normally focus a little bit more on Europe? So I think at the moment with everything that's going on, it's not only, delays in shipments and elongated timelines and higher charges and impacts on margins and drops in trade, which everyone's also experienced. I think it's been the unknown of what that plan B should look like. And that's quite frustrating. And also from a posting point of view, social media is huge in every industry, but particularly when it comes to, fashion and influence and stuff. And it's also wanting to remain sensitive about posting and stories because that's a huge tool for selling for us, whilst also being very aware of what's going on in the region and knowing that a huge percentage of our customers have been massively impacted by what's gone on, especially when you are in, a Middle East region and you're such a multicultural place to live. We've been affected, I'd say, on every single touch point. So, yeah, the plan B has definitely been harder to navigate than I would say being in this region and working. I worked for Azadea Group at the time, and we just, like I say, accelerated our plan for Azadea.com, which is now a very successful platform. It's hard to gauge the plan B, really, really hard.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true. The uncertainty of there's too many variables to play, and so many of these variables are completely out of control and hard to forecast, right? It's like no real logic can follow clear outcomes, right? There are definitely possible scenarios that can pan out, but definitely it's not as it was COVID and say, okay, look, this is going to stop in 3 months, it's going to stop in 6, it's going to stop in 9.
Or you could gauge data, couldn't you? You could look at reported cases and recovery and whatever. We're essentially, we're betting on conversations, we're betting on human behavior, human reactions, and they're some of the most unpredictable things ever. So it's super, super hard. And I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and I think in the region at the moment, as much as we've loved this period of a ceasefire, it's been amazing and the calmness has been great, but we're also aware that it could be temporary and we don't know what's yet to come.
Yeah, absolutely. The high uncertainty, it's definitely like disrupting, and also like, even the corrective plan B, as you mentioned, right? You don't know in what direction actually this will move, right? So it's pretty frustrating indeed. But I guess that also in all the biggest crisis, opportunity lies if you look hard enough. So my next question is about what do you think could be opportunities coming out of this, right? You mentioned a bit like internationalization and looking at different markets, but is it only that, or do you see any other opportunity that can come out of this definitely challenging times?
Yeah, we definitely saw a little bit of an influx in orders during the Eid break. I think a lot of people who were planning to go away instead did staycations, so they made the most of some of the hotel deals, and a lot of their shipments and their orders for their breaks got stuck or delayed because there was no there was no planes in the sky. So we definitely managed to benefit from being local and being able to we had the stock here, we're not shipping from another country, they get it straight away. And we're definitely still seeing that. We're still seeing that, people are going online and we're having quite high value and high SKU unit orders where it's very clear someone's shopping for a break or they're shopping for a holiday. And I think a lot of that is because there are now extended lead times with ordering from international websites. There are added costs for shipping things here. I still order from international websites and I'm still getting emails every day going, oh, it's been delayed, we've had to divert you, you've had to go for another country, whatever it might be. So I would say that's the benefit that we're definitely feeling at the moment, that we've got the stock, we've got it here. Anything that is selling out that we can replenish and we can make now, my warehouse is literally 10 minutes from my house. I can go and brief the team and we can get those restocks online within a couple of days. So that's definitely a benefit that we're experiencing and we're very, very grateful for at the moment.
Fantastic. I mean, that definitely makes sense. If you were advising, a fashion founder or someone starting out today, a business in the GCC, right? What would be your advice, right? Especially in, I don't know, in the operations field, which is your domain, right? In the logistics and operations or manufacturing part, like what would be your advice as the most important thing that you would advise them to get right early?
Every decision has to have the customer at the center of it. That's a really big thing for us. And everything you do, whether, you can look at a third-party deliverable who is going to give you an amazing rate on, delivery, but actually, there's no tracking available for the customer. The speed isn't there. Everything has to be about your customer, especially when you have a female customer. Because like I say, men are quite loyal shoppers. I've worked in menswear myself, and I always found that if you locked in a male customer who liked your product, he generally would come back every year for the same product or a variation of it. Women are quite fickle, and I think if they have a poor customer experience, their return rate really reduces unless you really manage to get them back in. So for me, my advice would be that every decision you make needs to have the customer at the heart of it. I even say it to my customer service team if they're querying a return from a customer that they're not sure, has the customer worn the item, they've maybe gone back and challenged a return. Look at the cost of the product and is it really worth an argument with a customer or, upsetting somebody and maybe losing that customer forever. So for me, every decision has to center around the customer. And I also think that seeing this emergence of founder-led content is really, really important. And I've been speaking to Daisy about that a lot as well, where it's really good to make your customers aware of what your challenges are, where you're coming from, and why you've designed something. I think founders like Grace Beverly of Tala does that amazingly. Amy, who has Odd Muse, does a fantastic job of doing that as well. And I love getting feedback from friends. I went to a lunch with some friends recently, and somebody I'd never met before said, talk to me about your prices. I really feel like your prices have increased. I said, okay, well, what have you bought? What because again, we want to listen to our customers. And I said, okay, well, it's the same price as Zara. I said, and do you know that that's handmade? It's been made here. And do you know that fabric and that print is actually signature? You can't get that anywhere. We've had that print designed and then printed on fabric. You can't just go and buy that. And she was like, I had no idea. Wow. And it's not about justifying price, but it's about giving a reason why that price relates to your product. So I think listening to your customer and having them at the forefront of every decision you make should always be key. And that would always be my advice for anyone starting a business.
Yeah, and I think it's also about brand persona and identifying with a bit of a community and some sort of values. I think it's kind of important, right, to build around that. I think it's which could be what you just mentioned is communicating. I put my passion in designing this, and I put the effort into actually coming up with meaningful designs that have actually some uniqueness, right, in different whether it's the cut or is the fabric or anything, right? So communicating these definitely, I mean, especially in the women's fashion, I think it definitely very powerful. And
we've got an amazing customer service team. We've got someone that's been with us a long time, and she's so passionate that I see her every day. And even if it's just one piece that's come back with a comment from a customer, she feeds us back straight away. And we keep an eye on that, that comment, and we make sure, okay, let's keep an eye on it if we hear it again. We had a skirt called the Lisa skirt, and it was very long, but it was actually, that was the trend. But we started receiving quite a lot of feedback that it was too long. So we recalled the whole stock, we shortened the hem, we put them back online. We wrote it in our description that, we've listened, is now shorter. And, just having the power to do that as well, listen to customers, we're not so narrow-minded that we're not going to sit there and go, well, I designed it like that because I want it to be long. And I really like it when it drags on the floor. At the end of the day, it's not what you want. As much as that design might feel very precious to you, you need to sell a product, you need to be commercial, and you need to listen to your customers. So, you know, we regularly do that even in our product descriptions. Hey, if you're unsure of your size, we recommend you go down, it's a bit of a big fit, or a bit of a snug fit increase. So we try to give as much of that personal feedback as well to our customers so that they feel that they know that we've got them in mind with everything that we do.
Definitely. I mean, very, very important. Very exciting. So thank you so much, Danielle. I think it's been really, you know, a genuinely insightful conversation, and has been very great to hear more and more about Beach City and the journey and your customers and the importance of customer service, the importance of last mile delivery, the importance of you know, uniqueness and supply chains that are close to where products are sold. Thank you so much for your time today, and looking forward, you know, to see the region to go back to more tourism, to more, you know, outdoor activities, and more, like, you know, opportunities to stay on resorts and beaches, which also I personally like a lot. So thank you so much, and looking forward to have another conversation once the times would be a bit more, at least clear on what the path is.
Stable, exactly. Yeah, no, thank you so much for your time. It was great to meet you.
Thank you, Danielle.